Hello, NAAIA community. Get ready to relive insightful discussions, gain fresh perspectives, and be inspired by the wealth of knowledge our community has to offer. Let's dive into another episode.
Happy New Year to you all. Good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Rod Powell, NAAIA National Board Member and Agent Development Committee Chair. Just want to welcome everyone to the Q1 Growth Blueprint, Goals, Pipelines, and Profitable Momentum. Thank you for joining, being a part of this Agent Roundtable conversation. Once again, this session is a part of NAAIA's Agent Roundtable series. This brings insurance agents together for candid, peer-driven dialogue focused on business growth and real-world practice. The goal of these series is to create a space for honest conversations. It's centered around a shared experience, practical problem solving, and strategic insight. These things will support stronger operations, better decision making, and ultimately long-term growth. As we move through this first quarter, many agents are setting priorities, and in fact, many of you probably set them in the fourth quarter, and you're managing your pipelines. You're working to build early momentum that's going to carry you through the remainder of the year. Today's discussion is designed to help bring clarity to that process by focusing on those goals, metrics, and activities that truly drive that growth, not just here in Q1, but beyond through the remainder of 2026. Our panelists today will share real-world strategies, lessons learned, and practical approaches to forecasting, pipeline organization, and resource allocation. The intent here is to offer frameworks that you can use to assess progress early on, make those adjustments when needed, and stay aligned with your annual goals. Before we dive in, a few housekeeping notes. Ashley may have mentioned some, but we'd love for this to be an engaging session. Make sure you drop in the chat where you're joining from. Feel free to share your takeaways, insights, as well as any other thoughts or questions as the conversation unfolds. If you do have questions, make sure you are submitting them through the Q&A box so they can be addressed as efficiently as possible. And at the end of the webinar, you'll also receive a brief survey. Please complete that survey. Your feedback is incredibly valuable and it helps us to continue to improve future programming. So we appreciate you taking your time when you complete it after this webinar series and session. Now my pleasure to turn things over to today's moderator, Ms. Sherry McFadden, the immediate past president of the Global CPCU Society. Sherry brings a wealth of industry leadership and experience and a thoughtful and engaging approach to guiding these conversations. We're so grateful to have her today. And Sherry, I see you have joined. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Rod, thank you so much. Greetings, everyone. It's always a pleasure to participate in any of our NAAIA-driven webinars. So I hope all of you all have a great chance today to not only listen to a phenomenal panel, but also kick the year off with making certain that we continue one of the major goals of NAAIA, which is to make certain you have a very educated opportunity to learn and grow in the profession that we consider, and I consider, probably one of the best in all of the industry, and that's being a risk management professional, as well as an agent and entrepreneur. So with that, I would again like to make certain that you engage, and we will get started with our panel.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sebrina.
I see my Missouri folks in the chat.
So Sebrina, as we're waiting for Max to join us, would you like to give us a little bit about your background, your bio, and we'll get started with questions as soon as we get Max joining us.
All right, sounds good. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sebrina Bush Hillard, and I am with Insurance Design and Placement. That is a commercial brokerage that I run and that I took over after my father. So I am a second gen agent, and you'll see a little bit of that perspective coming in as we discuss some of the topics because feel like I have the benefit of a little bit of the old school way of doing things mushed up with the new school. So we'll see how that works as we have these conversations going forward. And I am originally from St. Louis, grew up in Denver, and now am located in Louisiana. So everyone that was from all of those places, all the feels, all the vibes in the chat.
Great, great. So with that, as we're waiting for, we have one other presenter that I want to make certain we get a chance to join us as well. But in the interval, because we know how technology is, I'm going to begin with you, Sebrina, since I have you here. First of all, you talked a little bit about your background and where you're from. But one of the questions that I always want to ask of entrepreneurs, especially an agent, is what lessons did you learn from last year that is most influential to you and how you approach your planning and your opportunity for growth and profitability this year?
This year. Yeah, well, I've noticed that I have changed a little bit. In the past, I really have been very data driven, very win driven, very even sort of interest driven. So, in how I looked at marketing, looked at branding for our agency. And this year, I was a little bit more introspective. It's a little bit of a continuation, I think, to change that has sort of been going on since 2020. It used to be that just achieving was the main goal. So as long as
Yeah.
you were achieving, that made sense. But I'm sort of also putting that achievement under a scope of what my big why um, is for myself and for the agency, why I want my agency to continue to exist in the ecosystem and what I really want to be doing, what energy and space I want to occupy when I'm in a room. And last year
Mm-hmm.
was rough for a lot of my clients. We have mostly
Yeah.
small business clients, and there was just a lot of uncertainty, a lot of apathy even. And so when I'm looking at this next year, I want to help them feel more secure. I want to be a bright light for them. And so that's a little bit also of what is really impacting how I'm approaching this year. Is it's not just about what industries I want to win in, how big the accounts are. It's really like, what is the presence, what is the energy that I want to bring to these souls, these other people that I'm interacting with. So,
Well, thank you for that. You
yeah.
also have a unique history. You began by saying that you're a second generation agent. So, in our culture and background, that's pretty unique. So, tell us a little bit about how that happened in your family and what you learned from that.
Oh, wow. Well, so how that happened, very carefully, but also all at once. Definitely my dad expressed an interest, like I think most second generation or not second generation if they choose not to follow in the footsteps. There was a lot of discussion like at 18. Like I got my producer's license at 18 in the just in case something happened to him, he wanted me to be able to legally maintain contracts, stuff like that, in order to at least be able to get a buyout. So there was a lot of discussion about this would be great. This is the way that this is how Marsh became Marsh. It was a person initially, and then it passed on to generations, and then, it merged and things like that happened. So this is a great opportunity for you. You have the capability to do this. There was a lot of discussion about that growing up. I went to Howard, went to law school, practiced law, and I said, it is great for me to have ownership. I do not have to run it. So we very diligently pursued that, trying to find someone who wanted to run it and have partial ownership with me for a couple of years, and it did not work. Then we had lost some key personnel, and I was trying to transition out of law. I said, let me just sub for them for a while. This will help me in my ownership to really know what's going on. And I haven't left since. So that's the very long-winded way of saying,
Yeah.
like most people, even though I fell into it, even though I was born into it as well, I sort of fell into it as well. Yeah.
What a great legacy, as well as the fact that you continue to pursue an education. And I wanted everyone to know that Sebrina also is a lawyer, but she took all of that and added it to the plate of now being a very successful agent and entrepreneur. But along the way, Sebrina, help the audience a little bit with what I consider learning opportunities. So I'm calling mistakes. But what are some of the mistakes that you have observed or maybe even experienced in your first, second, or in your years as an agent or entrepreneur? What are some of those most common mistakes that you have observed or experienced?
Yeah, well, definitely as it concerns goal setting, and I think a lot of second generation agents would have this experience is that you see how someone was successful and you're like, I just need to copy, paste, and repeat. And if you are generally the same person, same motivation, same personality, I think that that can actually work for you. But really, even the times change, even the business ecosystem changes. So again, I'm going to talk a lot from a business perspective because that's the majority of our clients. But even ecosystems change, technology change. So even if you're doing employee benefits, personal lines, laws have changed, things change, and so that can mean that that copy and paste and repeat does not always work in terms of goal selling, in terms of approach. And so doing that was definitely a mistake that I had early on. But then there's the other extreme, which is ignoring that you have this base and not taking advantage of it, not leveraging it. So that was the other extreme that I went to. And then I got somewhere in between where I really got to know what we were doing well, why it was working well, why our clients appreciated us, and just try and duplicate that part of it, and not duplicate all of the other way. Like my dad was a cold call crazy person. He also just in his sales approach was very like, we are the best. We have the best. There's no one that's better west of the Mississippi type of approach. And that I can't pull that off. I can't, that's not my personality. I don't have it. But I can be very thorough, take that law background and be very thorough in my analysis, connect facts to conclusions. And that works. That works for me. So that was the copy and paste, not knowing myself and just repeating what someone else told me and not tweaking it. That was definitely a mistake that I made early on that I'm glad I'm out of that era.
That's a wonderful example. And the cut and paste sometimes can work, as you indicated, and that may be some of the thought process maybe early on for any entrepreneur and of course legacy. I like the way you shared the contrast with your dad's personality and creating a business as an African American man, and then you being able to translate that to who you are and continue to be very successful. As we wait for our next panel, there he is. Hey there, how you doing, Max?
Hey, Sherry, some tech issues going on. Sorry again.
That is absolutely okay. We live in the world of technology. So Max, since we've been, and I've had the chance to pepper Sebrina with some good questions, I want to make certain you have a chance to introduce yourself to the audience. And then I'm going to start with those questions for you so we could get your perspective on being a successful entrepreneur as well as an agent. So a little bit about your background and we'll get started.
Max James, a State Farm Insurance Agency owner since 2003, with 2 locations in the DC area for the past 23 years.
Well, Max, you and I have a similar background. Some of you all may know that I also built my career with State Farm Insurance over 35 years in various operational positions, but supporting our agents in some of those various roles as well. So greetings and welcome. Max, we
Thank
started off
you.
with a question for Sebrina, basically talking about your strategy, some of the lessons you've learned along the way, as well as help us understand how you look at your goals for this year based on some of your experience from last year or even in the year before that time.
Thank you for that question. I actually meet with my team around November, December to get ready to plan for the next year, in this case, 2026. Around that time of year, you have an idea of what you've done or not done for 2025. And then you try to align your strategy to game plan and improve upon what you didn't accomplish in 2025. And the team is involved in that planning process. So there are lots of things that go into it, but I'll be glad to expand on them based on what you're asking.
Well, yes, as we talk about this, I had a great question for Sebrina. And I talked about learning opportunities or mistakes, however you wanted to define that, but setting your strategy each year, developing a plan of action for success. What are some of the learning opportunities or mistakes you have made or had to learn from that you want to share with the audience? You're highly successful, but somewhere along the way, you probably had a mistake or two there.
Absolutely. I wish I was not mistake free. Everybody makes mistakes. The biggest thing that I've learned over the years is there are two things that I know I need. I have come to rely upon for continuous improvement and growth. And that is always having the right team members in place that are referred to as human capital, and along with financial capital, right? The human capital is a big piece of it because we serve the public, right? So if you're able to duplicate yourself as much as possible in your team members, then you're able to achieve most of the outcomes that you want for your customers. So it's always about the customers. So the challenge is always trying to build the right team, and every single year you think you have the right team member in place, but then you find out that 3, 7, 9 months down the line that it wasn't quite what you wanted to have in place, and you're always trying to churn and recruit and recruit. You're always recruiting, looking for that right person, right? So that is the challenge. I've met a lot of people come to you with all kinds of pedigree, but you don't really know what you have until they sit in their chair and talk to your customers, and you work with them, right? So I've made all kinds of hires that didn't pan out, and every single year I'm trying to improve upon that. I've gotten to the point now where I have the core team members in place. It's always a challenge to get them to sing the same hymnal. So.
Well, thank you for that. Sebrina, we talked about your legacy and Max, your entry into entrepreneurship as a State Farm agent. Because Sebrina had a legacy of her dad being in the industry. What is your legacy and interest? What was the major driver of your decision to become an agent, an entrepreneur in the industry as an agent?
I was exposed when I was a student at Howard University as an undergrad, exposed to all state agents that were working at the time at Sears and Roebuck, if people remember what that store
Yes.
is. So I was working part-time at Sears and Roebuck as a student, going to school full-time. I was exposed to these agents that were present in the store, taking care of their customers, and I saw their lifestyle. And that kind of perked my interest, right? I saw how they took good care of their customers and made a good living out of it, right? So when I graduated from Howard, I wanted to explore this industry called insurance, and that's what really got me into it.
Excellent. So, two Howard University agents. There
Yes,
we go. There we go. HBCU all the way.
yes.
I want to make certain too that we have a chance to talk about metrics. So, just before you arrived on stage with us, Sebrina talked about metrics in terms of lessons learned from cut and paste and looking ahead. So, I want to start with you, Sebrina, to talk about your metrics. what are the hard data that you all both use to determine your success or determine change of course, either annually or quarterly? Talk to us about those hard numbers.
Yeah, I look at a mix of results-oriented metrics as well as effort-oriented metrics. So I'm definitely tracking, I'm tracking how many hours I am out and about networking, because for me, that is big. I'm tracking, and that includes, meeting with referral sources, meeting with, touching base with potential clients who I see as influencers in either the geographic area that they are in or in their actual industry. So I'm checking that. I'm also checking efforts such as calls that I love to do. I love them. Calls. I'm checking campaign metrics. I'm checking website metrics as well. So those are all to me sort of like efforts oriented, sort of seeing how much I'm getting out there. And then I sort of try and connect that to what the actual results are. So how many people are of those meetings, of those client meetings, are actually referring, and how frequently, and what's the quality of the type of leads that they're giving me. And then I'm also looking at, are there industries that we're growing faster in? So that means to me a lot about our carrier profile, and whether or not we have the carriers that are really competitive in those industries, and whether that's something therefore I need to push harder and add more targets or potential people that I'm going after in that area, or time or money in that area as well. So yeah, so for me, it's efforts, and then it's also production goals, and so that's volume, industry type, and things of that nature.
Excellent. Max, what about you?
So every single year, I set what I call a retention metric and a growth metric.
Mm-hmm.
And on the retention side of the aisle, obviously, we all know that it is cheaper to retain your existing customers than to bring in new ones. So my team is divided into two sections: people that retain activities to retain what we wrote the year before and the prior years by doing intentional activities that will make them stay with us for a long time to come. And then we have numbers and outcome that we're looking for, a benchmark that we have to get to by year end. And there are things that I coach my team on that if we do these things that are customer intentional, they almost always result to this outcome or benchmark, right?
Good.
And then on the growth phase, we have several marketing funnels that we use, right? In my world, I believe in what I call always be marketing. I'm a big believer in buying the internet lead providers that give us people that are shopping for insurance online. We do direct mail, we do bus shelter ads, we do seminars, we do referrals. So there are so many referral buckets that if we do all this stuff and the number we're looking for based on experience, if that number is X, if I can help my team execute the activities that will lead to this X, then around third quarter, fourth quarter, we'll kind of see where we are and make adjustments. But my biggest marketing funnel is direct mail, the internet lead providers that I send to my team every single day, and they do outbound calls to try to help customers out. So my system's a little different than the young lady that spoke earlier.
Yes. And it should be, as we talk about agency kind of in like on a big bucket. But Sebrina, you started off with more business customer, commercial lines. Max, you got a mix of business and personal lines, commercial lines, all throughout.
Correct.
So that's one of the things we want to make certain for the audience, that there's not a cookie cut type environment, that both Sebrina and Max represent areas in the industry as entrepreneurs that may vary depending on their client, as well as their production goals, and even in the part of the country they may be in. So we just wanted to bring that point out, and you all did that extremely well. My next question is around peers as well as mentors, individuals that help you all not only continue to thrive, but compare your results or your opportunity for growth, working with peers and then also working with mentors. Even though you're each an entrepreneur, you do not live in an isolated environment. So talk to me and to the audience a little bit about how you use your peers or mentors to continue to inspire as well as make certain that you recognize the need to reach out, up, and around as you grow and continue to grow as an entrepreneur.
So in my world, Max James, I have so many mentors, but there's one particular gentleman that has been around my company for over 25 years. And in my 23 years of affiliation with the company, this gentleman has maintained consistent result year after year, no matter what environment we're in, right? So I actually went to his office and said, I'd be willing to pay you to be my mentor, if that's what it takes for me to be like you, right? And he was gracious enough to say, hey, Max, you don't need to pay me. I'm flattered that you want me to be your mentor. So every 6 months, I would take the gentleman out to lunch and I would pick his brains, right? And I would say, this is the things that we're doing in the agency. This is what we're not doing. This is what's working and not working. What can you interject or share with me that I can improve upon, right? And he's more than happy to share. For the past 23 years I've met with him. You always have to find someone that you respect, that you want to be like, and hang out with those people that are doing what you want to do, right? In my case, it's this gentleman that has been here for 25 years.
Sebrina, what about you? Thank you, Max.
Yeah, so obviously, big shout out to my father, who I still bug all the time with regard to things. Although I did recently tell him, I said, sometimes I don't have to have a conversation with you because we've had so many conversations. I can just in my head have the conversation with you and know what it is that you would say. But yeah, he's obviously a big mentor. If anyone would like to mentor me, please reach out. I would also love to have, yeah, I would love to have someone else. But peer, I have to give a big shout out to NAAIA. I joined NAAIA when I lived in Georgia, but I really started participating here in Louisiana. So I guess I also need to give a big shout out to Louisiana. It has been very, very helpful to me, the other agents, and actually there's a lot of other second generation agents that are a part of our chapter. And we regularly chit chat together, talk about what carriers are and aren't doing. And we talk to each other about, we share when there's something that we know. So for instance, like nonprofits is, is something that I'm really interested in and been pretty successful in here, in Louisiana in particular. So, you know, if someone gets that opportunity, there's sharing in that way. If it's property heavy, which is not my strength in Louisiana, then I'm sending information. So there's sharing of business, there's sharing of how to approach different business, and there's sharing of our ups and downs with carriers, which, you know, information, knowledge is really power, especially when you are in an unequal power structure with other entities. So being able to take other people's results in when we have those carrier and contract discussions is very, very helpful. Shout out to NAAIA and the whole agent section of NAAIA for that.
Thank you so much, both of you all. First of all, shout out to NAAIA too, because when you look at professional organizations, membership organizations, you know, having served now past president of the Charter Property Casualty Underwriting Society, CPCU, my background in the industry expands well over 3 decades. But what I've learned and consistently learned, mentors come from various aspects of our interacting not only with each other, but with professional organizations. So if nothing else, I shout out to NAAIA. Thanks for being here today to bring this webinar forward. But this is a good opportunity to talk about membership and not forgetting to join professional organizations that could support you in various ways. So thanks to both of you all for your individual efforts with mentors as well as both professional organizations as well. My next question, Max, is for you. Tell me a little bit about how you stay focused. How do you align your goals with business realities? What keeps you focused and driven each year? What are some of those not only professional goals, but personnel, or I should say personal characteristics that you think creates a great entrepreneur like yourself?
Thank you for the question. Like I told you earlier, I got into the business because I saw people in my earlier career doing well in this industry. That was the reason why I got into it, right? But then once you get into it, you understand it is about the customers that you are about to take care of, right? That we really, our job or my job is to protect them from financial ruin. That's really what we do, right? That's what insurance is for, right? So I focus on that with my customers. It starts with them and end with them, right? So I basically think, what can myself and my team do each day to make sure that if one of our customers get into a situation that could present a financial devastation, do we get a chance to talk to that particular customer and open their eyes to that potential, right? And give them the education that they need to take care of that particular event. It will happen. The question is, when will that happen, right? And then right after that, we're blessed that we do both insurance and financial services, right? And wealth accumulation is a good focus of mine as well, right? So I do help my customers to accumulate wealth, no matter how big or small they are, right? And so every single day, my focus is on those things that we need to do to, if you are my client, did I protect your wealth and did I help you grow your wealth, right? And that's why I live on every single day with myself and my team.
Thank you. Sebrina, what about yourself?
Yeah, I think this is probably the place where we definitely have a lot of overlap. And I think this is true of a lot of insurance professionals is we do actually, obviously we want to make money, but we do actually care about the people and the outcomes that our clients have. And so that's definitely the case for me. A lot of times I, stay in this business because I just don't think that there are other agents who would be willing to give the level of service, the level of knowledge, level of patience with the type of clientele that I have. The Gallaghers and the Alliance. They're going to give a whole bunch of resources and time to their multi-million-dollar premium clients, but I want to give that same like level of resources and knowledge for our clients that are below, let's just say below those multi-million premium of clients. And that's why I want to continue to exist, because someone else may not be able to do it. It may not be financially prudent because they don't have a second generation book of business to lean back on. Or someone may not have, they may not have had the life experience that I had and that I bring to those clients as well. So it's definitely being there for them, preventively, being there for them when inevitably there is something that happens that definitely drives why I stay in the business.
Absolutely. Thinking through this, and this is not actually a standard question that I kind of had prepared, but y'all generated this question for me. As we look at our culture, as we think about African Americans and any people of color who are interested in becoming an agent, an entrepreneur, what is the one thing that you each would recommend that they think about, either from a financial perspective, customer service perspective, a longevity in the industry? What would be the one characteristic that you would say would maintain their interest as well as their potential longevity in the industry?
Focus on your customer. It begins with them and ends with them. Okay. You work for them. Once you understand the power of our licenses, right? We've been empowered by the states that we work in to take care of our customers in our book of business, right? And there are so many things that are beneficial that we owe them the conversation about those benefits, right? The job is not to get them to buy something, it is to educate them, empower them, have them make beneficial decisions when they are ready, right? I call us insurance doctors, just like our physicians, right? Every single year we go to our doctors for our health metrics, right? And they tell us what we need to do or not do in regards to our health, right? So I tell my clients that you're joining me, but it is a long-term relationship. I'm going to bring you in every 2 years. We're going to talk about you and your financial health and the things that can improve it or make it go south on you, right? And it's about them at every conversation. That's my one advice to everyone is if you focus on the customer, everything that you're looking for long term is going to happen. But outside of that, then your growth and journey is going to be interrupted.
Thank you. Sebrina, what about you? What are your thoughts on that one?
I will steal from my father on this one. One thing that always resonated that he told me is how important insurance is to the overall current capitalistic economic system. Like it is underlying everything. And so it is very, very important work. And it's always going to be growing and expanding and changing because our economic systems are always growing and expanding and changing. So you think, this is a multi-hundred year industry. You would think you could get bored in it, but no, for your continued lifespan, you will see many interesting changes in the industry that you can always learn from, get interested in, move into. There's also a lot of breadth in the types of experiences that you can have. You can work for NCCI, you can own an agency, you can work for CPCU. There's so many things that you can do that you can continue to reinvent yourself in this industry. So even though it's an old industry and it sometimes seems stuck in the mud, there is the potential to stay in the industry and to continue to have a multiplicity of experiences and to be doing very important work in terms of keeping the economic ecosystem moving along in the way that we hope it's going to. So that's another, obviously what Max said is the better answer, but just to give some variety in answers.
There is no,
just to give some variety.
Yeah, there is no better answer. We all have the same ideas, and part of the focus on the customer also is making sure that you're constantly educating yourself, right? American College has a plethora of educational materials that will empower you to empower your customers and stay relevant in every single decade or year that you're in, right? So for you to serve your customers well, you got to be knowledgeable and know what's going on in our industry so you can impact that knowledge and help to our customers as well, right? So there's a lot that goes into focusing on the customer. That's the be all and end all for me and my practice.
I so like both of you. I love both of your answers. The focus on the customer and having been an economics major and continue to focus on the financial well-being of what risk management and insurance can do for anyone, any family. So we talk about recovery from unexpected losses.
Yes.
We think about Altadena in California, the wildfires there, very devastating. And to understand the economics of properties and homes purchased in the 50s and 60s in that part of the country, and to rebuild with current financial impact. That's a great example, Sebrina, as you talked about. The industry is, I consider, the undergirding of our economy. Try to buy a home today without being able to get insurance for that home, or to drive an automobile, or to have any of those safety factors. Insurance is a major driver of the economy. And for financial security, you're absolutely right, both of you all. And the customer, the focus. Let's talk about and this is not I'm looking at my list of questions, but indulge me for just one more minute. Entry to becoming an agent. What are some of the financial barriers or financial considerations that I think our audience may have regarding how can I become an agent? What does it take to get to be where you two are? What did it take?
So every industry or ecosystem is different. That question will be different if you're captive or if you're independent, right? If you are captive like I am, right? Your entry point to be able to sustain yourself long term is have a good financial capital base, right?
Mhm.
You are a business owner, not an insurance agent, right? We just happen to use the insurance business to be an entrepreneur, right? And because you're a small business owner, you got to go in and understand all the financial things you can put together to be able to sustain the growth for yourself, your customers, and your team in the future. I learned that the hard way, but once I got educated about it, I was able to put things in place to be able to make sure that that financial capital is there, right? Because without that, it becomes difficult to maintain what you're trying to do. Then once you've done that, I've learned over the years that human capital is another big part of it, right? Surround yourself with team members, if you're able to do that, one or two, that will share your vision, right? Have the intellectual capacity to be able to do what you're trying to get them to do, right? So, and then stay focused on your goal, not the yearly goal, your quarterly goal, and always going to take a look at it and at close to the end of the quarter, share with your team how the journey is going and then make adjustments quickly, right? Than
Mhm.
focusing on the year end result. So I found that to be very helpful in my world, where I get the team involved in what we're trying to go, what we're trying to do. And every 3 months or thereabout, we get together and say, hey, B is not working, A is working. Let's put more resources on A, right? Or let's explore other avenues to add to our system to do what we're trying to do. So that's one thing that I will definitely tell somebody trying to enter the business and find a study group. Every part of the industry has a study group, either locally or nationally, that you can belong to and go to those seminars and learn from your peers and make connections with one or two people, right? And form a study group to share with each other and learn from each other and challenge each other. And don't be an island unto yourself.
Excellent. Sebrina?
Yeah, definitely. As far as barriers are concerned, I feel like insurance is a little bit strange because to some extent, right, if you have the couple of $100 for the pre-licensing class, and some states don't even require that anymore, and then however much the license is, you're technically right in the industry. So it seems like it can seem like there's a lot of low barriers, but definitely to be successful, to hit the ground running fast, there are other barriers that you may have. So again, I had the benefit of having a very willing buyer that I was able to negotiate with to buy into my agency. And was able to also give me a very long tail and to being able to pay that down and pay that off. But like if you want to buy into an agency, I know young people who have done that. I know folks in Colorado that are us that have done that, that have just been somewhere, saved their money, lived with less than, and then were able to buy an agency and technically have that sort of benefit of having money coming, cash flow coming in while they actually go out and sell and grow their agency. So it's definitely available. Growing through merger is also available. That's something I've been exposed to a lot in NAAIA. Co-ops I've been exposed to a lot in NAAIA, and those things can break down in financial barriers that you would otherwise have. So those are things to look into. And I know we have like I forgot his name, but Ken, who's a part of NAAIA, who does like consulting along those lines, that if anyone is currently with a carrier and thinking that they want to go on out on their own, either captive or independent, like there's definitely resources for folks to tell you all of the ways to do that, what banks are favorable, all of those things. But yeah, it's weird. It's a weird industry in that it's sort of easy to get into it, but to grow it is a whole different story. So yeah.
That's an excellent example of the right question for the right answer. So, Max, Sebrina, I want to go to back on script. You mentioned quarterly results. Max, what must be true at the end of your first quarter of results that you think will be sustainable as you reach the end of the year? And that would be the same question for you as well, Sebrina. What must be true at the end of your first quarter each year that has given you the opportunity or the thought process to make certain by the time you get to the end of the year, you're in good shape?
So we set a revenue outcome that we're looking for by year end, along with growth outcome, right? Those two things kind of mirror each other, right? But sometimes it does not, right? So the growth outcome could be we want to grow by 1,000 clients by December 31, 2026, right? Well, then we shave that into quarterly numbers, right? At the end of March 31, the first week of April, the reports come out, right? Team, do we make improvement? Are we moving in the right direction on that growth metrics, either revenue or growth in customer base, right? So if we did not do that, then what do we not do well? What stopped us from doing that, right? So that in the second quarter, we can catch up, right? And then if I've noticed over the years that when I'm able to do that, almost always the year-end number comes into fruition, right? But it takes dedication in my world of constantly training the team because in my world, it's about team, right? The more I empower my team to be very effective in taking care of our customer base, right? Then the more they can help us achieve those outcomes we're looking for, right? So every single week, we sit down for 2 hours and simply train the team on a plethora of stuff that we do for customers, right? So I found that system along with marketing funnels for them to use to do what we're trying to do and how to effectively utilize that marketing tool has come in handy for my agency, at least.
Thank you for that. Sebrina?
Yeah, definitely that that is true. We gotta be a portion of the way there. And so to me, that translates to I have to have some hits, I have to have some wins by the end of the quarter because otherwise it's demoralizing. And so that's one thing. But when I think about what that number might be, depending on what the types of accounts that I was focusing on. So like if I'm focusing on all public entity clients in quarter one or mostly focusing on them, I'm not going to have any hits probably in quarter one. But I need to have some movement toward that. So again, that's why I'm always looking both at what my efforts are and what the results are. So definitely that I have to have some hits or I'm gonna be in a funk, in a slump. But if the hits are lower than what I want them to be, then like Max is saying, then we're reassessing and really thinking maybe it's an approach, maybe it's a mindset, something like that. Maybe I don't have the right entry into talking to who I need to talk to. But so I make those tweaks if the hits aren't what I want, the wins aren't what I want. But also I am also tracking to help out and to balance that out what I did, what efforts I actually made as well, because then that can sort of offset any potential for feeling like why am I even here? And so I do also track efforts as well. And if I'm on track with my efforts, then a little bit of it, we like to talk about data and we like to talk about metrics, but also a little bit of this is either faith or magic. Really, I mean, really it is. So, there are a lot of things that if I'm doing what I need to be doing and I'm putting out positive energy and I'm dreaming big and I'm having a lot of faith, then even if it's not hitting in the first quarter, a lot can happen. And I've definitely had a lot of years where that has just been true. And so don't let not having the results mean absolute horribleness for the rest of the year, but also really grind it out to make sure because that momentum is great. That momentum is great to be able to take into the rest of the quarter as well.
Well, thank you so much. You all are so informative. And as I look at our time, we have probably about 7 minutes for Q&A. I know there's some probably good questions out there, and I want to make certain the audience has some opportunity to ask questions of both of you all. Take a look at the chat. Okay. Are there any questions from the audience, burning questions that you all want to present or ask? Okay, from the chat, I do see some questions about growth, as well as the fact that, of course, quite a few people like you all. That's good too. But if there are no questions from the audience, I do have one last closing question as we near our time. As we look at 2026 and NAAIA and our opportunity for growth, what is the one thing that you all will leave for the audience to think about related to NAAIA and opportunities to be a member of NAAIA?
You repeat the question, so I was reading all the comments.
Oh, the comments, yeah, because they're great comments, aren't they? Yes, as you think about NAAIA as a membership organization, what is the one item you would say, or one, closing, in closing, what is the main purpose you think of NAAIA, of being a member of NAAIA to benefit?
Well, I was humbled when I was invited by to be part of the panel for NAAIA, and then I was able to look up NAAIA. It's really a study group for us. And what I want to do is once we hang up, I want to be a member, right? Because we all share and grow together. We have to pay it forward, right? I'm fortunate to have been in this industry for 23 years, so there's a lot of mistakes and experiences, right, that I can share that one or two people can use to springboard their business, either currently or about to come on board. So to the extent that I can lend one or two things to the group, I will be a member after we finish this webinar. So
Thank you, Max, because there was a question about growing your pipeline. And I think that you all would be absolutely beneficial to many in helping them to grow their business and grow their pipeline. Sebrina, same question, a major benefit of being a member of NAAIA.
Gosh, it's hard to just say one. It really is. NAAIA has definitely provided opportunities to grow like this one, as well as opportunities to speak at conference. There's so many people that I have reached out to, some that are in this webinar, Kathy Conley Jones, Bonnie Boone, and Ghazi, like people that I have reached out to and asked questions about, do you work in Connecticut? What about healthcare? Like so many, what about mergers? So many resources, just getting to know people because it is all of the insurance industry is in NAIA. And so if you're like me and you're a stalker and you're boldly just reach out to people and ask them, to offer them lunch, offer them a drink, if you're in Louisiana, and reach out to them. You have a wealth of all different types of resources for any question that you could ask. So yeah.
Well, thank you for that. And like I said, the question was in the chat, the Q&A. It's about growing your pipeline. Is there, just as we manage our time, is there one thing that you would recommend? And I know, Max, you talked about the customer, focus on the customer. Sebrina, you talked about your metrics, but always coming back center, focus on faith and the fact that you just keep learning. Any one last gem you want to leave with the audience to continue to grow a pipeline as an agent, grow their pipeline as an agent?
I read this book several years ago that says always be marketing, ABM. Whether we are in a slow growth industry or fast growth industry, never take your foot off the pedal. Do some type of marketing without fail in our industry, right? And then it is not a one and done with your customers. Try to bring them back into your agency or go meet them and review what you did for them 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, right? It's a relationship that lasts 20, 30, 40 years, and it does not end after that first, second interaction. Get to know your customers, let them remember you and you, who you are. To the extent that they will be impressed if you have a young lady and a young man and they have a newborn baby and you know that baby's name and send them a birthday card. Something as tiny as that, right?
Yes.
Can build a phenomenal relationship with your customers that is more personal than just about trying to sell them something, right? So meet with your customers, always be marketing. Those two things should never stop, no matter what's going on in your world.
Thank you, Max. At this time, I know we want to lend just a couple last minutes for Rob to come back and to just talk about what's next, what's coming next. This has been a great session. And Sebrina and Max, thank you all both. So I want to turn it.
Thank you for watching this flashback episode of NAAIA. We appreciate your time and hope you found the insights valuable. Stay tuned for more enriching content. Until next time, thank you for being a part of the NAAIA community.